Hey everyone, it's Chris from Smithy Finance. It's Monday, March 31st, and this is your Midday Market Report. So, how do you like trading? Isn't it a great career choice? Isn't it great fun? And, it's just been bad, right? It's been tough for quite a while, and it's just tariffs and bad news. And I don't know. We had Japan down 4% last night. But let me tell you a story. So I started in the business in 1984, and my first real boss, was a guy named Bobby Rose, and I was on the floor of the Toronto Stock Exchange. And Rosie, as we called him, would have been, I don't know, probably 50-ish. I'm going to say, seemed like an old guy to me when I was 24 or 23 when I started down there. Anyway, Rosie would every day, or most days, he liked to play IBM, he liked to play GM, Ford, and then he'd play some of the Canadian ones. But when he wanted to buy a US stock, we didn't do it by a computer. I had to phone the New York trader. So he would yell over to me, Christy, buy me 5,000 IBM at market. And so at the time, IBM was trading around 100, call it $100.07. Everything traded in eighths in those days. So I'd buy him 5,000 at 107 eighths, and New York would phone me back and give me the fill, and I'd tell him, and he'd, okay, and he's kind of hunched over his computer, or the monitor. And so, because you could still see the prices on the monitor in those days, 1984, it was the beginning of computerized trading, but the very, very beginning. And then he would call, he'd shout over later, buy me another 5,000 IBM at market. So I'd buy another 5,000, and maybe this was at 101 and a half. And the fill would come in, and I'd shout at him and buy me 5,000 GM at the market. And that would be like $60 or whatever. Anyway, he'd be buying 10,000 IBM at, say, an average price of 101, and he'd buy 5,000 GM at 60. And by the end of the day, he's, Christy, sell me 10,000 IBM at market. So he'd sell him 10,000 IBM at market. It'd be 99 and 7/8 or 100 even. And then sell me 5,000 GM at market. It'd be 59 and a half. And this was happening day after day. Now, I'm new in the business, totally new. But I'm looking at it and I'm going, this can't be good. He's losing like 10 to 15 to 20,000 a day, US. Remember, I'm in Canada. And it's like almost every day. I mean, it couldn't have been every day, but he was almost never making money, and he was losing, and he was betting big, 10,000 IBM at 100, that's $1 million trade US. He's buying 10,000 Inco on the Toronto market. And anyway, he's a big time trader. Never seemed to phase him at all. And this was month after month, and where I know he's losing. Like, I don't know what it is at the end of the month, but it's big money. And but he rarely showed it. He was just kind of a good-natured guy. But once in a while, he'd shout over, and after he put in a bid to buy 5,000 shares, have we got a fucking fill yet? He'd shout at me, and I'd go, oh no, Bobby, and I'd phone New York, and they'd give me the fill, and I'd tell him. And anyway, so he was there's emotions involved, even when you're. I mean, he's living in the richest street in Toronto, or at least one of the two richest streets, just off the Bridle Path, Park Lane. I went to his house. He had a tennis court because I was a tennis player, and I taught his family tennis on Saturdays. But you go out in the backyard, you couldn't see the court. You'd have to walk, 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 and then it would dip down near the ravine at the back, and there's the court down. But you couldn't see it. I don't know how much land he had there, an acre and a half or something. But anyway, that's beside the point. But it was daily, monthly. I worked for him for, I don't know, a year and a half, let's say. And it was not a pleasant time. And I don't know how much he's losing every month, 200,000 US. Now, his father would come in once in a while and just stand behind us and talk to Bobby. And his father must have been 75, seemed like 100 to me, right? But apparently his father had bought the seat on the exchange, back in the 50s or the 60s, or, way before. And maybe his father bought it. I don't know. But these guys, they had trading in their blood. They'd been trading and trading and trading, and it never really seemed to phase them. Um, and this is what happens with the trader is that you stay in the game, you keep taking your swings no matter how crappy things are. Because I'll tell you what, now I left his side to become a broker. And I would see him once in a while, but I would hear about him through the grapevine. He left the firm, so I think his partners must have got fed up with those big losses month after month after month. So he left the firm, landed at another firm. But then the rumor comes through that Bobby's made a massive score as the market came out of a recession or a bad period. He made a massive score on this and this and this, and he owned tons of Magna International. He had all the Frank Stronach and Manfred Walt, all the guys, the top guys at Magna would phone us to put in their orders, and I was talking to them regularly. Anyway, Bobby had a huge position. The stock went from a low of 3 to I don't know 100.5 or something over the course of 5 or 6 or 7 years. So look, the moral of the story is that you're going to take losses and you're going to go through tough markets. Like right now is a really tough market. It ain't easy, man. But you got to keep taking your swings. You got to keep believing in what you're doing. You have to survive it. Now, I don't know how deep Bobby's pockets were, but deep, obviously, because he was, like I said, he was losing on a regular basis pretty big money. You lose $1.25 on IBM every day, and you have 10,000 shares. Do the math. So anyway, that's the moral of the story. I'm not even going to go through the numbers. We're kind of crappy. We've got actually the Dow is actually up. I guess it's the financials, but the Nasdaq's down another 230 points. Bitcoin is barely holding positive. Gold is up. Silver is down. Copper is down. All the high flyers are down. They opened down 4%, and before you knew it, they're down 7%. Whether you're talking Reddit, Super Microcomputer, um, any of the big tech stocks, the high traders, the high multiple traders stocks, anything that's done well is getting punished and punished hard. And it's kind of tough, right? But look, this is the game. This is how it goes from time to time. As I've said before, it's the hardest market to trade when they're just straight down, which is what we've been for the last few days. My Ivanhoe is like at 1240. It was 15 and a half 5 days ago. That's a big drop, and I keep adding. The Aya that I talked about on Friday, which was down huge, is actually up a little bit. I did a little work on it this weekend. I don't think it's the end of the world. Their quarter it was bad, but I think the future is still bright. So I'm not selling anymore. As I said before, I'm a buyer below 10 and I'm a seller above 12, but I probably would be buying a little bit higher than that, maybe 10 and a half. And would I be selling at 12? Yes, but small. I think it's going to go higher over time, assuming gold and silver, or especially silver, continue to do well. And silver, as I said earlier, we've got gold up, but silver is down, yeah, just 20 cents. It's almost at $35. So that's a really good number. Strategy, MicroStrategy, they bought another 22,000 Bitcoin. So at an average price of $86. Now, I really respect these traders, these guys that go all in. This Bobby Rowe is my boss. Total respect for the guy. What size balls do you need to just keep going at it, even when you're getting slapped down? And Sailor Man, that guy believes in Bitcoin to the moon. Um, I wish I had his belief. My belief is high, but his belief is really high. Obviously, it's this aggressive buying. It's an amazing thing, and if Bitcoin does what we think it's going to do, MicroStrategy will be the biggest company in the world in the next 5 to 10 years by market cap. So let's see what happens. So all I can say is, yeah, tough times. Stick to your guns. Sell if you have to, but we want to be in the market for those good days that are sure to come. And take your punishment. Take your punishment with a good heart. Okay. The one thing that I learned on the floor of the exchange was that the traders are funny. Gallows humor is big. there's a lot of swearing going on. There's a lot of teasing of their friends, of their buddies, of their coworkers. Bobby would say, we had one guy who was a technical analyst, and he'd be looking at the charts. And on Monday morning, we'd have a Monday morning meeting. What are you seeing in the market? There'd be like 12 of us. We had a lot of traders on the floor, a lot of pro traders in those days. And it would come around to this guy, Bruce, and he'd say, Bruce, what are you seeing? And Bruce said, well, Inco's breaking down and Kamenko's breaking down. Bank of Montreal doesn't look so good right here. I'd be cautious, Bobby. And Bobby would look at him and go, well, aren't you a ray of fucking sunshine? And and he'd be kind of butthurt, Bruce. Well, I'm just telling you what the charts say. And, we all have to, follow our methods in the market. But I guess the moral of the story is you've got to stay tough. You got to stay on it. You've got to, take control of your life in the other areas so it doesn't drive you nuts. Have a sense of humor, and just know that somehow better days are going to come, and you're going to, make a big score down the road. And this is the price you pay right now. Is the price you pay for being a trader, and that's why a lot of people can't make it, because there's some bad days. So anyway, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.